I've always resisted putting myself out there. And even though I had things to say, things that I've learned from years of investing in building businesses or supporting those who are building businesses and working with entrepreneurs across the continent. But I kept finding reasons not to speak up in public, not to post, not to show up on stages. A lot of people were putting things out, and I just told myself that I was not ready to show up, and I told myself that it was modesty. And then someone told me something that actually stopped me cold. He said, Deji, the entrepreneurs that need what you know, they don't have the luxury of waiting for you to feel ready. And I realized something very, very uncomfortable, that my reluctance to be visible was really not actually about humility. It was self-protection, right? It was me hiding behind modesty as a disguise for fear. The discomfort of being visible does not disappear before you start. It actually diminishes as you go on. So every post, every talk, every conversation where you show up, clearly and you are not destroyed by the outcome, reinforces you. It recalibrates your brain's threat assessment. And so you do not need to wait to feel comfortable. Just act. The comfort follows incrementally. You get a bit more comfortable as you go on. For a long time, longer than I care to admit, I've always resisted putting myself out there. And even though I had things to say, I had real things that I had to say, things that I've learned from years of investing in building businesses or supporting those who are building businesses and working with entrepreneurs across the continent. I'd written a book, Scaling for Success, Empowering African SMEs. I developed all these frameworks, sat in room with founders who are building things on the continent, but who are also struggling with problems. I thought carefully about a lot of things, but I kept finding reasons not to speak up in public, not to post, not to show up on stages. A lot of people were putting things out, and I just told myself that I was not ready to show up, and I told myself that it was modesty. I told myself that it was because I wasn't ready yet. When I'm fully formed, when I'm ready, when I have all the experiences round shaped, I'm sure you can think of all the there are people I look up to in the business world that I feel like they have the right to say things. Even when I sit with them and they talk, I say, yeah, these are the people that should be talking on the stage, right? These are the people whose voices should be heard. I felt like I had to be ready at that stage, at that level, before I could speak up publicly. So I did not put myself out there. And then someone told me something that actually stopped me cold. He said, Deji, the entrepreneurs that need what you know, they don't have the luxury of waiting for you to feel ready. And I realized something very, very uncomfortable for me at that point, that my reluctance to be visible was really not actually about humility. It was self-protection, right? It was me hiding behind modesty as a disguise for fear. And more than that, I also realized that the message I was carrying was really never about me. It has never really been about me, and it has also not been for my own benefit. It's for the person trying to figure out how to build something real on the continent without a map, without guidance, without coaching. And that person would not benefit from what I knew if I kept it to myself. And this is what we're going to be talking about on this episode. Welcome to the Diary of an African Entrepreneur. My name is Deji Adebusoye. Last week, we talked about the imposter syndrome, and this week is something closely related to imposter syndrome, but it's slightly and distinctly different. You see, the fear of visibility is what we're going to be talking about today. So, what is the fear of visibility? It's different from introversion, and it's not imposter syndrome either. Although those three things, introversion, imposter syndrome, and fear of visibility, could actually come together and live in the same person at the same time, but it's different. So what imposter syndrome says that I don't deserve to be seen because I am not good enough. Whereas the fear of visibility says something slightly different. It says that even if I am good enough, I don't want to be seen. It's that discomfort of being watched, being judged, being talked about, being evaluated, consistently feeling like people are grilling you and they are trying to find, everything that is wrong about how you show up and how you appear. So that is actually the fear of visibility. There's a research professor called Brené Brown who has spent over 2 decades studying vulnerability, courage, and shame. And she puts it this way: visibility and vulnerability are actually inseparable. To be seen is to be open to being judged. And most of us at a very, very deep level have learned that being judged really hurts. I know that when you're judged, it hurts, right? And so we preemptively hide in order not to be judged. And let's take it, fear has many faces. Sometimes it looks like you're procrastinating on maybe publishing a content that you have already written, or there's a speaking opportunity that you could benefit the brand that you represent. Sometimes it also looks like you're keeping a deliberately low profile on social media while watching people with a fraction of the knowledge that you have build audiences and get opportunities that you could have had. And you keep blaming the system, you keep blaming, people, I wish they knew what some of us can do. Unfortunately, they will not find out what you can do and what you know unless in one way or the other you put that content out there. And I think there's a lot of structures that have been developed that people can tap into. For example, I'm here on a video. Sometimes you do not even have to be on a video. It can just be a voice podcast where it's just your voice that is being heard. And sometimes it could just be you writing and putting that content out there. That is visibility. So don't confuse it that does it mean I have to put my face out there? No, you don't have to. The question is, what is that thing that can solve the problem for people? If it is you coming out to speak about it, then so be it. But if it is you putting your product, your services out there, and they are the ones that are getting that visibility, then it's something to be explored. So really, the fear of visibility is driven by simple cost-benefit calculation that your brain it runs it automatically. If I stay hidden, I cannot be criticized, I cannot be rejected or embarrassed. If I show up, I can be. Even though invisibility might feel safe, it has a price, and that price usually compounds, whether we like it or not, quietly year after year. It keeps compounding. And let me add a different layer to it, the African context, which is very specific and powerful to in terms of understanding this problem. In many African cultures, there is this deep social instincts against what you might call standing out too far. We have phrases for it in Yoruba. There's a whole architecture of proverbs around humility and knowing your place. I'm going to say one. I'm going to say it in Yoruba, and those who understand it might be able to relate to it. It says that tishu yobata wa fowo bojeni. What it means is that when I hope I don't I don't kill this. What it means is that when your issue is yam, when your yam is well done, and maybe even during harvest you have the big tubers and it's doing well, when you want to eat it, you eat it with your hand covering it so that other people don't see that level of success that you attained. So in many communities, actually, the person who presents themselves too boldly, they're read as being arrogant or as forgetting where they came from. And this is a version of what social scientists call it the tall poppy syndrome. That's the cultural tendency to cut down people who rise above the group. And the phrase actually comes from a different context, but the dynamics is universal. It came from a New Zealand study of entrepreneurs, and they found that almost all of them had experienced this, that the moment they become successful and visible, people around them in various ways, they try to bring them back down. And dealing with that pressure led many of them to deliberately hide their success and avoid visibility. And the same thing on the African continent now. This dynamic is more intensified by something else. The very real experience of envy and cultural belief in its power. And I know many people who are listening to me understand what I mean by this. You're afraid that you'll see it in many instances. For example, if a lady is pregnant, she doesn't want to tell people that she's pregnant, for example, because you have concerns that there are deep cultural belief in making those kind of things known to people. So many African entrepreneurs are genuinely afraid of what can happen when they are seen to be doing well, and it's not just a social discomfort, as it were, but in this particular nuance, there is a specific culturally embedded fear of the attention that comes with such a success. So we hide, and I think I want to reinforce this. Everything I'm saying today, and you'll see as I go on, it's never about you. In fact, the moment you settle down and you think about putting something out there, and it always feels like this is always about me, I'm trying to self-promote, gloat and all that. Maybe some people are comfortable doing that. I'm not here to judge anyone. People can do that. But it's not something I would do. I wouldn't put myself out there just because I want to be seen. I want for the ego of it. If I have something to say, I say it. If I don't have something that benefits anybody, I shut up. But I find it difficult to believe that you've been building, you've been grinding, you've experienced so many failures. I struggle to believe that there is nothing you have that will benefit people out there. So here is the shift that changed things personally for me. I told you about my experience when I first launched the book, Scaling for Success. The editor told me then that, look, Deji, for this to be a success, you have to put your face behind it. You have to talk about the book. You have to share a lot about it. And I said, don't worry, I'll just launch this book and I'll put it out there. Whoever buys. Whoever does not buy, does not buy. I'm not ready to put my face behind this. We launched the book in November and I just left it out there to be doing this thing. But it was around March that I think this reality hit me. March the following year, that was March last year, that I can actually... There are things I know, there are things that I believe I can share with several people that will benefit them. And one of the reasons why I still keep doing this is not because I have millions of views, which I don't. It's because every time I've put out a video, there's been 1, 2, 3, 5 people that always text me and buzz me and say, Deji, this really helped me. I really found this valuable. And for me, that is fine, right? If it's 5 people, if it's 10 people, even if it's one person that would find this valuable, then I think it's worth it, because I believe for every one person that comes to meet me that they found this valuable, I believe that there are probably 2, 3 others who don't know me personally or would not probably approach me to say, Deji, I found this helpful. And I think that was one thing that changed in my mindset, right? The way I approached things was, this is not about me. This is not about my ego, Deji. When you put this content out there, whether you like it or not, yes, people will judge you. They will judge how you look, how you appear and all that. Yes, and we'll have to deal with them somehow. But the most important factor for me was, what you're saying is somebody learning from it, is somebody getting value from it, is somebody gleaning lessons and wisdom from what you're saying, and will it help and impact their business one way or the other? And the answer for me is, if that happens, then it is fine. When you frame visibility as a responsibility to those people rather than a risk to yourself, the whole calculation changes all of a sudden. It is no longer what will people think of me. It becomes, who am I failing by staying quiet? I talked about Brené Brown earlier, and she spent 12 years studying vulnerability, shame, courage, and she became publicly known for this. She was not a natural performer. She was, by her own account, someone who found the idea of that kind of public exposure genuinely uncomfortable. You can imagine somebody who was writing about vulnerability, shame, and courage. She herself felt that way. So when she was invited to give a TED Talk in Houston in 2010, she almost said no to that request because she felt she was not ready to attend the TED Talk, and she was also worried that she would be misunderstood. She worried about the room full of people that will be judging our research one way or the other, and she gave the talk anyway. And guess what? It became one of the most viewed TED Talks of all time. In fact, I'm going to put a link of that TED Talk in this video so that you can, if you want to watch the talk, I think it further reinforces. So you can also benefit from that. Over 60 million views across platforms was what she got. The work on vulnerability and shame that she had been building quietly for over a decade reached millions of people who needed it, and they would never have found it if she had stayed hidden. So we are still at that point. She has spoken about this directly. The willingness to be seen when you have no control over the outcome is the definition of courage. That in itself is courage. It's not the absence of the fear. There is always the fear every single time. In fact, let me tell you this. When I posted the video on the God factor, oh my God, you don't want to know the many thoughts that had gone through my mind before I put that video out, the God factor, because I know the subject of God touches on a very on some chords that you want to be careful about. And I did it. I put it aside for a while, but I decided I was going to do it. If I had prepared the content, but I just kept it on my system for a very long time. Eventually, I just said, look, I would do it. Not because I was not afraid, but because I just said, it is what it is. I put it out there. Maybe I might learn a thing or two, when people call up the backlash and all that. Maybe I might learn a thing or two from it as well. And I put it out there. And I'm glad that he actually got, people picked up things from it, and a lot of people found it very, very valuable. So for Brené Brown, the talk did not happen because she felt confident. It happened because she decided the message was bigger than her fear. And I think that's really the way to show up, which is a segue to the framework I'm going to drop in this episode is really what I call the SHOW framework, SHOW, because that's really what it means when you want to step into visibility. So the first thing is you need to shift the frame. Stop asking what will people think of me when you want to put something out there, your brand, your person, your product, your services. It's not what people will think of me. Reframe the question, who needs what I carry? Every time the fear of visibility shows up, swap that question. The new question reorients you from self-protection to service. The second thing is you should handle one platform first. Don't just, it becomes overwhelming. I just want to put everything out there. You don't need to. You don't need to be everywhere. Pick one, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a newsletter. Just pick something and just commit to showing up there consistently. The third thing is you need to own your own narrative before somebody else does. Guess what? Because the person who does not tell their own story leaves their story for some other people to tell, and they will usually get it wrong. Visibility that you control is always better than the version that happens without your input and without your control. So own your narrative. And the final thing is work with the discomfort. Don't work against it. The discomfort of being visible does not disappear before you start. It actually diminishes as you go on. So every post, every talk, every conversation where you show up, clearly and you are not destroyed by the outcome reinforces you. It recalibrates your brain's threat assessment. And so you do not need to wait to feel comfortable. Just act. The comfort follows incrementally. You get a bit more comfortable as you go on. The H part of it, I want to dwell on it a little bit more in terms of handling just one platform first. So it deserves a little more attention, because perfectionism kills visibility faster than fear would do. You don't need to be perfect, right? Many entrepreneurs want to start posting when they have the perfect setup. You have the right lightning, the right microphone, the right cameras, the right studio. Many people who have watched me, you realize that I have, I'm probably one of you without any of those right things. Maybe some things have improved over time. I have a nice microphone now that I use. I have one or two lightnings here and there that I put in there, maybe some nice flowers that come in the background somewhere. But honestly, to be very candid with you, what I say for me is more important than all these things. All these things are important, don't get me wrong, because they affect, whether you like it or not, the way people will respond to your video and how many people will see it. So I'm working on those things, right? I'm working hard on them to improve them. But at the end of the day, do not think you'll be perfect when you start. Just give it a go, and somehow it always takes on from there. First of all, write down three things you know deeply in yourself, whether they are skills or experiences or knowledge that other people in your market genuinely do not have, or do not have it at the same level of depth that you do. Write those things down. Then for each one of them, write down who is not finding that expertise right now because you have not made it visible, and be very specific about it. What kind of client, what kind of partner or collaborator is going without, or certainly for less, because they do not know that you exist. Then if you can, where possible, assign a rough number to the cost. And this is not just so that you feel bad about it, but it's just to make that cost of invisibility very real and concrete for you. If the hiding costs, if it costs you, for example, 2 clients a month, what does that add up to in a year? And do you think that cost is worth what you pay for it? And then the last thing is just pick one thing from step one of those 3 things that you've talked about, and tell yourself that I will commit to making it visible this week. Whether it's a post, whether it's an article, whether it's a conversation, something that just puts what you know into a world in a way that someone who needs to find it can find it. And please, when you put out that first thing, tag me. I want to see it. I want to see that you found that help and you were able to put something out and the courage to do it. And let us support you, in that process when you go on that journey. Yes. So at the start of this episode, as I start tying things up, I said that the message I carry was never really about me. And I really, really meant that. Everything I've learned about building businesses, about investments, about what it takes to scale something on the continent, none of it exists for my benefit alone. I'm not the one that created that knowledge base. I also learned it from somewhere. My visibility is not for my ego. It is for them. And yours is for the person who needs what you know. The question is not whether you're good enough to be seen. You are. The question is whether the people who need you, can they find you? And if they cannot, that is not a story about your worthiness. It's a decision that you are making every day, that you stay quiet. Show up, not for yourself. Show up for them. That is the episode on the fear of visibility. So our next episode, we're going to be moving into one of the most practical, important conversations in this series. Is going to be about delayed gratification, and it's one habit that separates the founders who build something lasting from the ones who are always starting over. It's about patience, it's about sacrifice and the long game. So I don't want you to miss it. So please, if you found this very helpful, share with someone. Also subscribe so that when the new episode on delayed gratification comes through, you'll be one of the first to be notified about it. So I'm Deji Adebusoye. Stay visible, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.